So let me get this straight, I said. My voice is shaking. I hate that it's shaking. You're telling me that the houses are fine? That I don't know what I'm talking about? I continued. Caleb doesn't even look up from his laptop that I paid for, by the way. He's got this irritated expression, like I'm a mosquito buzzing around his head during an important business call. Lily, we've been over this. The home's passed all the inspections. We have certifications. Investors are happy. Customers are happy. Maybe, he said, and then finally looked at me with that condescending smile. Maybe you should focus on your tutoring sessions and let me handle the business side of things, okay? I want to throw something. I really, really want to throw something. I am an engineer, Caleb. I'm telling you, the anchoring system won't hold in sustained winds over, and I'm the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. I think I know what I'm doing, he interrupted. That's when I should have known. That's when I should have packed my bags, called a lawyer, and burned that bridge to the ground. Spoiler alert, I didn't. Hi, I'm Lily Parker Reed. You're probably wondering what that whole scene was about, why I'm arguing with my husband about engineering specs like some kind of concerned building inspector. Well, friend, let me take you back to when I still believed in love, sacrifice, and the idea that hard work always pays off. Spoiler alert, I was an idiot. Now, I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you this because you need to understand what happened next. You need to understand what I sacrificed, what I gave up, so that when I tell you how it all fell apart, you'll understand why I'm sitting here, rage-eating ice cream at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, watching my ex-husband's life implode on the evening news, and why I'm smiling. I met Caleb Reed when I was 22, junior year of college, engineering program. He was in my thermodynamics class, sitting 2 rows ahead of me, always raising his hand, always having an opinion. He was smart, ambitious, had this energy about him, like he was going to change the world and just needed the right opportunity. And God, he was handsome. Dark hair, sharp jawline, that confident smile that made you think he had everything figured out. I was hooked. We started dating 3 weeks after we met. By graduation, we were inseparable. By 25, we were married. Those early years, they were good. We were both working entry-level engineering jobs, splitting rent on a tiny apartment, eating ramen more nights than I'd like to admit. But we were happy. We were building something together, or so I thought. Then, about 3 years into our marriage, Caleb came home with the idea. He'd been researching, sketching, planning for months. The concept was beautiful, honestly. Affordable, eco-friendly homes designed to withstand typhoons, homes for communities that got devastated every storm season, homes that could actually protect families. It was noble, world-changing, exactly the kind of thing that made me fall in love with him in the first place. I want to do this, he said, eyes bright with excitement. I want to quit my job and build this company. I know I can make it work, Lily. I just need time. And here's where I made my first mistake. I said yes. I'll support us, I told him. You focus on your company. We'll make it work. I meant it. I really did. I believed in him. I believed in us. I just didn't realize what supporting us would actually cost me. At first, it wasn't so bad. I kept my job at Morrison's Engineering. Decent pay, good benefits, normal 9 to 5 hours. Caleb worked from home, setting up meetings, pitching investors, designing prototypes in our garage. I'd come home to find him surrounded by blueprints, notebooks, coffee cups. He'd look up at me with that smile. How was work, babe? He'd ask. And I'd smile back. Good. How's the world changing going? I'd reply. Getting there, he'd say. Slowly, but getting there. I thought we were in it together, partners, a team. But then the bills started piling up. Turns out starting a business costs money. A lot of money. Money we didn't have. Caleb wasn't earning anything. 0 income. And my salary? It covered our rent, utilities, groceries, car insurance, barely. There was nothing left over, no savings, no cushion. And definitely nothing for Caleb's business expenses, which apparently included networking event tickets, prototype materials, and a new laptop because his old one was too slow. So I did what any supportive wife would do. I got a second job. Online tutoring. I signed up with one of those platforms where college kids pay someone to help them pass calculus. $50 an hour. Flexible schedule. I could do it from home after my engineering job. Easy, right? Wrong. Turns out, tutoring entitled College Students Who Are Bored During Our Sessions was exhausting. I'd get home from Morrison's at 6 p.m., scarf down whatever leftovers were in the fridge, and log on by 7. Then I'd spend the next 4 hours explaining derivatives to kids who were clearly playing video games in another tab. Weekends? Also booked. Saturday mornings, Sunday afternoons, anytime someone wanted to learn math, I was there. Because we needed the money. Because Caleb needed the money. Because I'd promised to support us. I was tired. Like bone-deep, soul-crushing tired. I'd wake up at 6, work a full day as an engineer, come home, tutor until 11 p.m., collapse into bed, and do it all over again the next day. Meanwhile, Caleb was in the garage, sketching designs and taking calls with potential investors. Don't get me wrong, he was working too. I'm not saying he wasn't, but there's a difference between chasing your dream and funding someone else's. And I was doing the funding part, all of it. The mortgage on our 3-bedroom house? Me. The one Caleb called mediocre later, by the way. Just putting that out there. Utilities? Me. Groceries? Me. Gas, car insurance, internet, water bill, trash pickup, that random HOA fee I didn't even know existed until we got the notice? Me. Caleb contributed exactly $0 to our household. But every morning he'd kiss my forehead and say, "Thank you, babe. I couldn't do this without you," he'd tell me. And every morning I believed him. Because I loved him. Because I thought we were building our future. Because I'm an idiot. I want to be clear about something. I wasn't miserable. Not at first, anyway. Yeah, I was exhausted. Yeah, I was stretched thin. But I thought it was temporary. I thought once my company takes off, this will all be worth it. We'll travel, we'll relax, we'll finally enjoy the life we built together. Caleb promised me that, over and over, and I'd smile, lean into him, and think, yeah, it'll be worth it. Spoiler alert again, it wasn't. One night, about a year into this arrangement, I came home from a particularly brutal tutoring session. Some kid named Tyler had spent 45 minutes insisting that calculus was a government conspiracy and refused to do any actual work. I'd basically paid to argue with him. I was exhausted. My eyes hurt from staring at a screen. I hadn't eaten dinner. I just wanted to collapse. And there was Caleb in the living room, laptop open, grinning. "Babe, guess what?" he said excitedly. I dropped my bag. "What?" I asked. "I got a meeting with an investor, a big one." "Martin Brooks," he announced. I perked up. "Martin Brooks? The real estate guy?" I asked. "Yep. He's interested in my company. Really interested. This could be it, Lily. This could be the break we've been waiting for," he said. And just like that, my exhaustion melted away. Because maybe, just maybe, this was it. The light at the end of the tunnel. The payoff for all those late nights. All those bills I'd paid, all those sacrifices I'd made. I hugged him. "That's amazing, Caleb. I'm so proud of you," I said. He kissed the top of my head. "Couldn't have done it without you, babe," he replied. I believed him. God, I really believed him. The meeting with Martin Brooks was scheduled for a Thursday afternoon at some upscale restaurant downtown, the kind of place with cloth napkins and a wine list thicker than my engineering textbooks. Caleb spent 3 days preparing. He bought a new suit. With my credit card, obviously. "I need to look the part, babe. First impressions matter," he said. $250 for a suit. I was tutoring kids at 11 p.m. to afford groceries, and he dropped $250 on a suit. But I didn't say anything. Because this was important. This was the big meeting. The one that could change everything. So I smiled and said, "You'll look great." And he did. When he left that Thursday, he looked every bit the successful entrepreneur he wanted to be. Sharp suit, confident stride, leather portfolio I'd bought him for his birthday. He kissed me goodbye. "Wish me luck," he said. "You don't need luck," I told him. "You've got this." He grinned. "I'll tell you all about it tonight." "Love you," he said. "Love you too," I replied. What I didn't know, what he conveniently forgot to mention, was that Martin Brooks was bringing his daughter to the meeting. Chloe Brooks. 24 years old, blonde, beautiful, rich, like generationally wealthy rich. The kind of rich where work is optional and investment portfolio means daddy's money. She worked for her father's company, sort of. Mostly she showed up to meetings, looked pretty, and gave opinions nobody asked for. But Martin adored her, his only child, his princess, and apparently he brought her everywhere, including to Caleb's pitch meeting. That night, Caleb came home late. I was in the living room halfway through a tutoring session with a kid who thought graphing a function meant drawing a picture of a calculator. I heard the door open, heard Caleb's keys hit the counter. I muted my mic. "How'd it go?" I called out. He walked into the living room and I swear, he looked different. Not just happy, not just relieved. He looked intoxicated, like he'd just discovered something he didn't know existed. "It went amazing," he said, loosening his tie. "Martin loved the pitch. He's in. He's investing." I almost jumped out of my chair. "Wait, seriously? He's investing? Like actually investing?" I asked. $2 million, he announced. I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" I said. $2 million. Caleb laughed, running a hand through his hair. "Lily, this is it. This is everything we've been working toward. Ecovara is happening. For real." I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to dance around the living room like an idiot. $2 million. All those late nights, all those bills, all that exhaustion. It was finally paying off. We were finally paying off. I stood up, ignoring the confused kid on my screen. "Caleb, oh my God, this is incredible. I'm so proud of you," I said. He hugged me, tight. "Couldn't have done it without you, babe," he said. And for a moment, everything felt perfect. Then he started talking about the meeting. "Martin's great," Caleb said, pouring himself a drink. "Super sharp, he gets the vision, he sees the potential." "That's amazing," I replied, "and his daughter was there," he added casually. I paused. "His daughter?" I asked. "Yeah, Chloe. She's involved in the business side of things. She sat in on the pitch," he explained. Something about the way he said her name made my stomach twist, just slightly. "Oh," I said, "that's nice. She's really smart." Caleb continued, taking a sip of his drink. "Asked some great questions. She really gets the market." "Uh-huh," I murmured. "And Martin wants me to meet with them again next week. Dinner. To finalize the terms," he said. "That's great, babe," I replied quietly. He was still talking, but I wasn't really listening anymore, because something felt off. Not wrong, exactly. Just different. The way he said her name, the way he smiled when he talked about the meeting, the way he seemed distracted, like part of him was still back in that restaurant. I shook it off. I was being paranoid. Ridiculous. He'd just secured $2 million in funding. Of course he was excited. I went back to my tutoring session. Caleb went to the bedroom, and I didn't think about Chloe Brooks again. Not that night, anyway. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Caleb met with Martin and Chloe twice more. Dinners, meetings, contract negotiations. He'd come home late, smelling like expensive cologne and telling me about the deals they were working on. "Martin wants to expand the target market," he'd say. "Chloe suggested we look into coastal developments." Chloe suggested. Chloe thinks. Chloe said. Her name started popping up more and more, and every time that little twist in my stomach got tighter, but I didn't say anything, because I was busy, working my 2 jobs, paying the bills, keeping our life running while Caleb built his empire, and because I trusted him. Then came the gala. About 2 months after the Brooks investment, Caleb got invited to some fancy charity event. Black tie, cocktails, networking with rich people who donate more to one cause than I make in a year. "It's important," Caleb said, adjusting his tie in the mirror. "The new tie, that I'd bought. Martin will be there. A lot of potential investors will be there. This is huge for the business." "That's great," I said, sitting on the edge of our bed in sweatpants. I just finished a double tutoring shift and honestly looked like I'd been hit by a truck. He glanced at me in the mirror. You don't want to come, right?" he asked. I blinked. "Do you want me to come?" I asked. He hesitated. Just for a second. But I noticed. "I mean, it's pretty boring," he said quickly. "Just a bunch of business talk. You'd probably hate it, and you've been working so hard lately. You should rest." There it was again, that twist in my stomach. "Yeah," I said slowly. "You're probably right." He kissed my forehead. "I won't be out too late. Love you," he said. "Love you too," I replied. And he left. I sat there on the bed for a long time after he left, staring at the closed door, wondering why it felt like he didn't want me there, wondering why I didn't push back, wondering when, exactly, I became the wife who stays home while her husband networks with beautiful rich people. Caleb came home at 2 a.m. that night. I was still awake, couldn't sleep. He stumbled in, loosening his tie, smelling like champagne and perfume. Not his cologne, perfume. "How was it?" I asked from the bed. "Good," he said, not looking at me. "Really good, made some great connections." "That's good," I said. He didn't elaborate, just changed into pajamas and climbed into bed. And for the first time in our marriage, he didn't kiss me goodnight. That's when I knew. Something had changed. I didn't know what. I didn't know how. But the man lying next to me wasn't the same man who'd kissed my forehead and promised me the world. He was someone else now. Someone who smelled like expensive perfume and didn't want me at galas. Someone who said Chloe's name a little too often. Someone who was slipping away. And I didn't know how to stop it. But I was about to find out just how far he'd already gone. 3 months after the Brooks investment, Caleb's business idea went from concept to reality. Fast. Too fast, honestly. Suddenly, Caleb had a team, engineers, contractors, project managers, an actual office downtown, not our garage. A logo, a website, marketing materials. Caleb's business idea wasn't just a dream anymore. It was a real company, and I was still working 2 jobs. I thought, stupidly, naively, that once the investment came through, things would get easier. That maybe I could quit tutoring. Maybe we could actually enjoy some of that success. That maybe Caleb would look at me and say, "Thank you, you made this possible. Let me take care of you now." He didn't. Instead, he got busier. Meetings every day, site visits, investor calls. He was barely home. And when he was home, he was distracted, always on his phone, always thinking about the company. I'd ask him about his day, and he'd give me one-word answers, good, or busy, or productive. Then he'd go back to his laptop. We stopped having dinner together, stopped watching movies on the couch, stopped talking about anything that wasn't about his company. I felt like a roommate? Actually, no. Roommates at least split the rent. I felt like a landlord he was avoiding. Then, one Saturday afternoon, everything shifted. I was home alone. Caleb was at yet another business meeting when I noticed a tube of blueprints on the kitchen counter. He must have brought them home by accident, or left them there on purpose. I don't know, but they were just sitting there. And I'm an engineer, so I looked. At first, I was just curious. I wanted to see what he'd been working on, wanted to feel connected to the thing that had consumed our lives for the past 2 years. I unrolled the blueprints on the dining table. Foundation plans, framing details, roof assembly, anchoring specifications. It was impressive, honestly. Clean design, efficient layout, affordable materials without sacrificing too much quality. I could see why investors liked it, but then I got to the anchoring system, and my stomach dropped. The anchor bolts, the ones that secure the house to the foundation, the ones that are supposed to keep the entire structure from lifting off during high winds, they were wrong. Not catastrophically wrong, not obviously wrong, but wrong enough. The bolt spacing was too wide, the diameter was too small, the embedment depth was shallow. On paper, to someone who didn't know better, it probably looked fine. It met the minimum code requirements. Barely. But I knew better. I'd worked on coastal projects, I'd seen storm damage reports, I knew what typhoon force winds could do, and I knew without a doubt that these anchor bolts wouldn't hold. Not in sustained winds over 140 miles per hour. Not in a Category 4 storm. Not in the exact conditions these homes were designed to withstand. I sat there staring at the blueprints, feeling my heart race. This wasn't a minor issue. This wasn't something you could patch later. This was structural, critical, dangerous. If a typhoon hit, these homes wouldn't just get damaged, they'd be destroyed, ripped apart, lifted off their foundations, turned into debris. And people, families, would be inside. I grabbed my phone and called Caleb. It rang 4 times before he picked up. "Hey babe, I'm in a meeting. Can I call you back?" he said. "Caleb, I need to talk to you. It's important," I said urgently. He sighed. "Lily, I'm literally sitting across from," he started. "It's about your house designs," I interrupted. Pause. "What about them?" he asked. "I saw the blueprints, the anchoring system. There's a problem," I explained. Another pause. Longer this time. "I'll call you back," he said. He hung up. He didn't call back. Not that afternoon. Not that evening. He came home at 10 p.m. looking annoyed. "What was so urgent?" he asked, dropping his keys on the counter. I was still at the dining table, blueprints still spread out in front of me. The anchor bolts, I said, standing up. Caleb, they're not sufficient. The spacing is too wide, the diameter is too small. In high winds, the uplift forces will, I started to explain. Lily? He held up a hand. Stop. I blinked. What? I asked. The designs are fine. They've been reviewed by our engineering team. They passed all the inspections. We have certifications, he said dismissively. I know, but, I tried. But nothing. He walked past me, barely glancing at the blueprints. You're not on the project, Lily. You don't know the full scope of what we've planned. My chest tightened. I'm an engineer, Caleb. I know what I'm looking at, I said firmly, and I'm the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. He turned to face me, and his expression was cold. I think I know what I'm doing. I stared at him. This man, my husband, the man I'd sacrificed everything for, looking at me like I was an inconvenience. Caleb, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, I'm not trying to undermine you. I'm trying to help. If these homes fail during a storm, I said. They won't, he interrupted. But if they do, I pressed. They won't, Lily. His voice was sharp now, irritated. We've done the calculations, we've run the tests, everything is fine. The tests don't account for sustained wind loads over, I started. Oh my God, he laughed, actually laughed. You looked at one blueprint and now you're an expert on typhoon engineering. I felt my face flush. That's not fair, I said quietly. No, what's not fair is you questioning my work when you don't understand the full picture. He grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge. I appreciate your concern, babe. I really do. But maybe you should focus on your tutoring sessions and let me handle the business side of things, okay? I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab him by the shoulders and shake him until he listened. But I didn't, because I was tired, so tired. Tired of working 2 jobs, tired of being dismissed, tired of being treated like I didn't matter. Fine, I said quietly. He nodded, like that settled it. Good. I've got an early meeting tomorrow. I'm going to bed, he announced. And he walked away, leaving me standing there, alone, with the blueprints that proved I was right. I tried again 2 weeks later, same conversation, same dismissal, and he leaves the house angry at me after. I didn't bring it up after that. What was the point? He wasn't going to listen. He'd made up his mind. And I was just the wife, the one who paid the bills and stayed out of the way. So I let it go. And I told myself that maybe I was wrong. Maybe the engineers on his team knew something I didn't. Maybe the certifications meant something. Maybe it would be fine. Spoiler alert, it wasn't fine, but I wouldn't know that for another year. First, I had to watch my marriage fall apart. Let me tell you about the year my husband became a stranger. Actually, no, that's too kind. Let me tell you about the year my husband became cruel. It's been 18 months since the Brooks investment, a year and a half since Martin's $2 million turned Caleb's dream into a reality. And what a reality it is. His company is everywhere now. Billboards, news articles, social media ads showing beautiful, eco-friendly homes with smiling families standing in front of them. Safe, sustainable, storm-ready. That's the tagline. Caleb came up with it himself. The homes are selling fast, faster than anyone expected. Coastal communities, developing neighborhoods, even some government contracts for disaster relief housing. Caleb is making money, real money. And me? I'm still working 2 jobs. I know what you're thinking. Lily, why are you still tutoring? Your husband is rich now. Great question. I asked myself the same thing about 6 months ago. I was sitting at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd discovered the flaw in his designs, the flaw he'd dismissed, paying our mortgage. Again. Caleb walked in, adjusting his tie. A designer tie this time. I knew because I'd seen the receipt. $300. Hey, babe, he said, barely glancing at me. I've got dinner with the Brooks tonight. Don't wait up. I looked up from my laptop. Dinner? Again? That's the 3rd time this week, I noted. It's business, Lily, he said, checking his reflection in the hallway mirror. I stared at the mortgage payment on my screen. The house was in my name. I'd bought it right before we got married. My responsibility. My credit. My problem. Caleb, I said carefully, now that the company is doing well, maybe you could help with the mortgage? I'm still working 2 jobs and all my capital is tied up in the business, babe, he interrupted, still looking in the mirror. I can't pull money out right now. We're expanding. Growth phase. You understand. I looked at his $300 tie. Right, I said quietly. I understand. Good, he said, seeming satisfied with his reflection. And actually, I continued, I was thinking, maybe I could quit the tutoring? Now that the company is doing well, we don't really need the extra income anymore, right? He paused, turned to look at me. Actually, he said slowly, I think you should keep it. I blinked. What? I asked. The tutoring, he clarified. You should keep doing it. It's good to have that stability. You know, in case anything happens with the business. Caleb, you have government contracts. You're selling hundreds of homes. What's going to happen? I questioned. You never know, he said, shrugging. Business is unpredictable. We should be smart with money. Smart with money. The man who just bought a $300 tie who couldn't help with the mortgage because his money was tied up wanted to be smart with money. Okay, I said quietly. I'll keep tutoring. Good, he said, grabbing his keys. I'll be home late. Love you. He left before I could respond. I sat there for a long time after he left, staring at the mortgage statement, the one I'd just paid, with my money, while my millionaire husband went to dinner with the Brooks family. Again, that was the first red flag I should have noticed, but I was tired and stupid and still convinced that we were in this together, so I ignored it, and things got worse. The comments started small, little things I could almost convince myself I was imagining, like the time I came home from work, exhausted, and Caleb looked at me from the couch and said, You look tired. I am tired, I replied, dropping my bag by the door. 12-hour day. You should take better care of yourself, he said, turning back to his phone. Maybe try that new gym downtown. Chloe goes there. She says it's great. Chloe. Her name had become a constant in our house. Chloe thinks. Chloe says. Chloe suggested. I don't have time for the gym, Caleb, I said. I'm working 2 jobs. Right, he said absently. Still, you used to take care of yourself more. I stood there, frozen. What's that supposed to mean? I asked. Nothing, he said quickly. Just, you look different in college. The comments got worse. A few weeks later, I bought a new dress for myself. Nothing fancy, just something nice from a department store, $70. I hadn't bought new clothes in over a year. I wore it to dinner one night, just us at home, hoping he'd notice. He did. New dress? He asked, barely looking up from his plate. Yeah, I said, smiling nervously. I thought I'd treat myself. Do you like it? He tilted his head, studying me for a moment. It's nice, he said finally. But, I don't know, the color washes you out a bit. Chloe was wearing this beautiful emerald dress at the gala last week. That would look better on you, something with more impact, you know? I didn't wear the dress again. Then came the event. Caleb was hosting a big investor dinner, fancy restaurant, important people, a celebration of the company's success. You should come, Caleb said one morning, almost as an afterthought. I looked up, surprised. Really? I asked. Yeah, he said. I mean, you're my wife. People will expect you to be there. Not exactly a warm invitation, but I'd take it. Okay, I said, I'd love to come. Great, he said. Just maybe wear something nice, like really nice. These are important people, Lily. First impressions matter. Of course, I said, I'll find something. And maybe do something with your hair, he added. Like get it styled or something. Chloe knows a great salon. I can get you the number. Of course, Chloe. Sure, I said quietly. That sounds good. I spent $200 getting ready for that dinner. Hair, makeup, a new dress that wasn't washed out. I wanted to look perfect. Wanted Caleb to look at me the way he used to. Wanted to feel like his wife again, instead of whatever I'd become. The night of the dinner, I walked into the living room where Caleb was waiting. How do I look? I asked, nervous. He glanced up from his phone. Good, he said. You look good. Not beautiful, not stunning. Good, like I'd passed some minimum standard. Thanks, I said quietly. He stood, straightening his jacket, a designer jacket I'd never seen before. Ready? He asked. Yeah, I said. Ready. The dinner was excruciating. We arrived at the restaurant, someplace with mood lighting and tiny portions, and Caleb immediately left my side. I need to make the rounds, he said, not looking at me. You know, network. You'll be fine, right? Sure, I said. I'll be fine. I wasn't fine. I spent the next 2 hours standing awkwardly at the edge of conversations, smiling politely while Caleb worked the room. He introduced me to exactly 2 people. This is my wife, Lily. He said both times the words flat and obligatory. Not, "This is Lily, she's an engineer." Not, "This is Lily, she made all of this possible." Just, "my wife," like I was an accessory he'd brought along. And then Chloe arrived. She walked in wearing a dress that probably cost more than my car payment. Hair perfect. Makeup flawless. Smile bright. Everyone turned to look at her, including Caleb. I watched him from across the room as she approached. Watched his face light up in a way it hadn't when he'd seen me earlier. Watched him laugh at something she said. Watched him lean in close, his hand briefly touching her arm, and I knew. I didn't have proof, I didn't have texts or photos or lipstick on his collar. But I knew, the way he looked at her, the way he smiled, the way he came alive around her in a way he hadn't around me in over a year. I knew. On the drive home, I tried to bring it up. "You and Chloe seem close," I said carefully. "She's Martin's daughter," he said, eyes on the road. "Of course we're close. It's important for the business." "Right," I said. "The business. What's that supposed to mean?" he asked, irritated. "Nothing," I said quickly. We never spend time together anymore, Caleb. You're always working, always at dinners or meetings or—" "Because I'm building something, Lily," he snapped. "I'm building an empire. I can't do that sitting at home watching Netflix with you." I flinched. "I'm not asking you to," I started. "You know what, you're right," he said, his voice cold. "We never spend time together, because you're always tired, always working, always busy with your tutoring sessions." I stared at him, the audacity, the sheer, breathtaking audacity. "I'm working those jobs to support us," I said quietly. "Right," he said. "Sure," and that was it. End of conversation. A few weeks later, I made one last attempt, one last effort to save whatever was left of us. I walked into the living room where Caleb was on his laptop, as usual. "Hey," I said, "can we talk?" He didn't look up. "I'm kind of busy, Lily," he replied. "It'll just take a minute," I said, sitting down across from him. "I was thinking, remember when you said that once your business took off, we'd travel? Maybe take a vacation?" He finally looked up. "Yeah," he said. "Well," I said, trying to smile, "the business is doing great now. Better than great. Maybe we could take that trip? Just the two of us. Get away for a week. Reconnect." He stared at me for a long moment. Then he laughed. Not a happy laugh. A bitter, incredulous laugh. "A vacation?" he said. "Lily, I'm running a multi-million-dollar company. I don't have time for vacations." "Just a few days," I said quietly. "We could. And honestly," he continued, closing his laptop, "you're always exhausted anyway. What's the point? You'd probably just sleep the whole time." I felt something break inside me. Something that had been cracking for months finally shattered. "You told me to keep working," I said, my voice shaking. "You said we needed to be smart with money. You're the reason I'm exhausted, Caleb." "Oh, here we go," he said, standing up. "Everything's my fault, right? I'm the bad guy because I'm successful?" "That's not what I tried. You know what, Lily? Maybe the problem isn't me. Maybe the problem is that you can't handle the fact that I've outgrown this." He gestured around the room. "Around our house. The house I'd been paying for. This mediocre life we've been living." Mediocre. There it was, that word. The word that would haunt me for the next 6 months. "I need some air," he said, grabbing his keys. "I'm going out." "Where?" I asked. "Does it matter?" He said, and he left. I sat there in the silence of our mediocre house, the house I'd bled myself dry to keep, the house I'd sacrificed everything for, and I finally understood. I hadn't just lost my husband, I'd never really had him at all. It was a Tuesday. I remember that because I had a tutoring session scheduled for 7 p.m., and I was running late. I came home at 6:30, rushed, still in my work clothes, ready to grab a quick snack and log on. Caleb was sitting on the couch, just sitting there. No laptop, no phone, just sitting. That should have been my first clue. "Hey," I said, dropping my bag by the door. "I've got a session in 30 minutes, but I can make us something quick for dinner after if you—" "Lily, we need to talk," he said. I froze. Those 4 words, the 4 words nobody ever wants to hear. "Okay," I said slowly, my heart already starting to race. "What's going on?" He didn't look at me, just stared at his hands. "I think we should separate," he said quietly. The world tilted. "What?" I whispered. "I've been thinking about this for a while," he continued, still not meeting my eyes. "And I think it's time we admit this isn't working anymore." "This isn't working," I repeated, my voice shaking. "Caleb, what are you talking about?" "Us," he said simply. "Our marriage. It's not working." I sat down before my legs gave out. I don't understand, I said. Where is this coming from? He finally looked at me, and his eyes were cold, distant, like he was looking at a stranger. Lily, be honest, he said. When's the last time we actually connected? When's the last time we had a real conversation? When's the last time we were happy? We've both been busy, I started. Exactly, he interrupted. You're always working, always tired. We never spend time together anymore. I felt like I'd been slapped. I'm working because you told me to keep working, I said, my voice rising. You told me we needed to be smart with money. You told me, I know what I said, he snapped, but that doesn't change the fact that we've grown apart. So fix it, I said desperately. We can fix this, Caleb. I can quit tutoring, we can go to counseling, I don't want to fix it, he said flatly. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. You don't want to fix it? I repeated slowly. No, he said. I don't. I think we've been holding on to something that's been dead for a long time, and it's time we both move on. Move on. Like our marriage was a job he was quitting, a lease he wasn't renewing. Is there someone else? I asked quietly. He hesitated, just for a second. No, he said. This isn't about anyone else. This is about us. About the fact that we're not happy anymore. Liar. I knew he was lying. I could see it in his face. In that tiny hesitation, but I was too tired to fight, too broken to demand the truth. So what now? I asked, my voice hollow. I'll move out, he said. This week. I'll get an apartment downtown. We can figure out the legal stuff later. Lawyers, paperwork, all of that. This week? I said. Caleb, you're talking about ending our marriage and you want to move out this week? There's no point dragging it out, he said, standing up. It's better if we just make a clean break. A clean break. 7 years of marriage, 7 years of sacrifice, 7 years of my life, and he wanted a clean break. What about the house? I asked numbly. You can keep it, he said, almost dismissively. It's in your name anyway. Of course it was in my name, because I'd been paying for it. Alone. For years. This house is too, he trailed off, looking around with barely disguised disdain. It's not really my style anymore, you understand. I understood perfectly. The house was mediocre, just like me. I'm sorry, Lily, he said, and for a brief moment he almost sounded sincere. I really am, but this is the right thing, for both of us. Don't, I said quietly. Don't pretend this is for me. He didn't respond, just grabbed his keys and walked toward the door. I'll start packing tomorrow, he said. I'll be out by Friday. And then he left. I sat there on the couch, our couch, the one I'd bought on clearance 5 years ago, and I couldn't move, couldn't cry, couldn't scream, couldn't breathe. I just sat there, staring at nothing, trying to understand how the man I'd loved, the man I'd sacrificed everything for, the man I'd built a life with, how he could just leave. He packed his things over the next 3 days. I stayed in the bedroom mostly, couldn't watch him box up his life, our life. On Friday morning, he loaded the last box into his car. I stood in the doorway watching. I'll have my lawyer contact you about the divorce, he said, not quite looking at me. It should be straightforward. No kids, no shared assets, really. Should be quick. 7 years, gone quick. Okay, I said quietly. He hesitated, his hand on the car door. Take care of yourself, Lily, he said, and then he drove away. I went back inside. The house felt enormous, empty, like all the air had been sucked out. I walked through the rooms, seeing all the spaces where his things used to be, the empty side of the closet, the bare spot on the bathroom counter, the missing laptop on the kitchen table. Gone. All of it. Gone. I didn't cry that day, or the next day. I went to work, came home, taught my tutoring sessions, paid the bills, just kept moving, kept functioning. Because if I stopped, if I let myself actually feel it, I knew I'd fall apart. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Quick, like he promised. The divorce settlement included 2 things. Caleb paid off the remaining mortgage on the house, and I got a one-time payment of $50,000. On paper, it looked generous, over a $150,000 in total value. But Caleb's company was worth millions. He'd just married into even more money, and I'd spent years working 2 jobs to make his dream possible. Still, I took it. The house was finally mine, free and clear. The cash gave me breathing room. It wasn't fair, but it was something, and I was too tired to fight for more. And just like that, I wasn't a wife anymore. I was just Lily. Then, 6 months later, I found out he was getting married. I saw it from a Facebook post of all things. I'd unfollowed Caleb after the divorce, but apparently mutual friends still existed. Someone posted a congratulations message. So excited for Caleb and Chloe. What a beautiful couple. I stared at my phone, my blood turning to ice. Chloe Brooks, of course. I clicked through to Caleb's profile. I know, I shouldn't have. And there it was, the announcement. Excited to start this new chapter with my beautiful fiancée, Chloe Brooks. Posted 2 days ago. The photo showed them on a beach somewhere tropical. Chloe's hand extended toward the camera, showing off a massive diamond ring, both of them grinning. He looked happier than I'd ever seen him. They got married 3 months later. I didn't go, obviously. Wasn't invited, obviously. But I saw the photos. Everyone saw the photos. It was everywhere. Social media, business journals, even local news. Fairy tale wedding for CEO Caleb Reed and heiress Chloe Brooks. The ceremony was at some mansion. Hundreds of guests. String quartet. Designer dress that probably cost more than my annual salary. Caleb in a tuxedo looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. Chloe, beautiful and radiant, and everything I apparently wasn't. I looked at those photos for longer than I should have. Sitting in my house, in my old pajamas, eating ice cream for dinner because I was too tired to cook, and I wondered, what did she have that I didn't? Besides money, besides connections, besides a father who could write million-dollar checks. What made her worth keeping? What made me worth throwing away? But deep down I knew. She fit his new life, his rich life, his successful life. And I was a reminder of where he came from, of the struggling years, of the mediocre house and the exhausted wife who worked 2 jobs. I was the before, she was the after. I finally quit tutoring after that, and I kept my engineering job, barely. Went through the motions, showed up, did the work, but my heart wasn't in it. My heart wasn't in anything anymore. 2 years passed, 2 long, quiet years. I stayed in the house, kept going to work, tried to build some kind of life from the wreckage, tried to forget about Caleb and Chloe and his business and everything I'd lost. And then one September morning I woke up to news alerts on my phone. Category 4 typhoon makes landfall. Coastal communities brace for impact. Thousands evacuated as storm approaches. I watched the news that day, watched the storm roll in, watched the footage of wind and rain and chaos, and I thought about those homes. Caleb's, the ones with the faulty anchoring system, the ones I'd warned him about, the ones he'd dismissed me for mentioning. I didn't have to wait long. By that evening, the footage started coming in, and it was worse than I'd imagined. The footage started appearing on the news around 6 p.m. I live hundreds miles away from the coastal area. I was home making dinner, if you can call heating up leftover pasta making dinner, when my phone buzzed with another news alert. Typhoon causes widespread destruction in coastal communities. I turned on the TV. The reporter was standing in front of what used to be a neighborhood. I say used to be, because there wasn't much left. Debris everywhere. Fallen trees, flooded streets, people wading through waist-deep water. The damage here is catastrophic, the reporter said, rain pelting her jacket. Entire communities have been devastated by Typhoon Elena, a Category 4 storm that made landfall early this morning. The camera panned across the destruction, and then I saw it. A pile of rubble that used to be a house, just gone, collapsed, like a house of cards hit by a strong breeze. The reporter kept talking. Particularly hard hit are the newly developed community featuring homes from CEO Caleb Reed, his company known for its affordable, storm-resistant housing. Storm-resistant. I felt my stomach drop. More footage came in over the next hour. Different neighborhoods. Same story. Storm-ready homes completely destroyed. Some were flattened, roofs and walls ripped apart by the wind. Others had been lifted off their foundations entirely, sitting at odd angles in the middle of streets. Families standing in front of the wreckage, crying, holding their children, holding whatever belongings they'd managed to salvage, everything they'd owned, everything they'd worked for. Gone. I sat on my couch, my dinner forgotten, watching it all unfold. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, no I told you so, just emptiness, because people were hurt, families were displaced, lives were ruined. And I'd tried to stop it. I'd seen the problem. I'd warned him, I'd begged him to listen, and he'd called me mediocre. By the next morning, the news was everywhere. CEO Caleb Reed's storm-ready homes fail during Typhoon Elena. Storm-resistant housing proves anything but. Families left homeless after storm-resistant structures collapse. Every channel, every website, every news outlet. The story was inescapable. I watched every interview, every heartbroken face, every devastated family, and I felt sick. Because I could have prevented this, if he'd listened, if he'd just listened. The investigation started within days. Government agencies, engineering boards, safety inspectors, everyone wanted to know the same thing. How did this happen? How did homes that were marketed as storm-resistant fail so spectacularly? The reports came out over the following weeks, and they confirmed everything I'd tried to tell him. The anchor bolts were insufficient. The spacing was too wide. The embedment depth was too shallow. The homes had passed the minimum code requirements, technically. But those requirements didn't account for sustained Category 4 wind loads. The certifications? Based on limited testing that didn't replicate real-world storm conditions. The inspections? Surface-level checks that missed the critical structural flaws. One engineering expert put it bluntly in an interview. These homes were designed to meet a budget, not a standard, he said. Corners were cut, materials were substituted, and the result is what we're seeing now, complete structural failure. The reporter asked, could this have been prevented? Absolutely, he said. Any competent structural engineer would have caught these issues. This wasn't an act of God, this was negligence. The lawsuits came fast. Class action suits from homeowners, personal injury claims, property damage, fraud allegations, hundreds of families suing Caleb's company for everything they'd lost, and criminal investigations. The big one. The state attorney general announced they were looking into possible criminal negligence charges against Caleb's leadership. I saw him on the news a week after the storm. A press conference. Caleb's official response. He stood behind a podium, looking small, tired, nothing like the confident CEO who'd left me 2 years ago. We are devastated by the impact of Typhoon Elena on the families who trusted us, he read from a prepared statement, his voice flat. Our company is committed to working with investigators to understand what happened and to supporting the affected communities during this difficult time. A reporter shouted a question. Mr. Reed, were you aware of structural issues with the homes before the storm? Caleb hesitated. We followed all applicable building codes and obtained all necessary certifications. Our designs were reviewed by licensed professionals, he said carefully. That's not what I asked, the reporter pressed. Were you personally aware of any concerns about the anchoring system? Another pause. Longer this time. No comment, he said finally. Liar. He knew. He absolutely knew, because I'd told him 2 years ago in our living room with the blueprints spread out on the table, and he dismissed me. More news came out over the following months. Martin Brooks pulled his investment, publicly distanced himself from Caleb's company. My family and I are horrified by this tragedy, he said in a statement. We had no knowledge of any safety issues, and we are cooperating fully with all investigations. His family. Chloe, I wondered if she was standing by him, if she was still the devoted wife holding his hand through the crisis, or if she'd already started looking for an exit. The answer came 3 months later. Another Facebook post. Another knife to the gut. Chloe Brooks announces separation from husband Caleb Reed amid scandal. The article was short, professional, carefully worded. Ms. Brooks has requested privacy during this difficult time. She will not be making any further statements regarding Mr. Reed or his business. She left him. The moment things got hard, the moment the money dried up, the moment he wasn't useful anymore, she left. Just like he'd left me. I'd like to say I felt vindicated, that I felt some kind of satisfaction watching his perfect life crumble. But mostly, I just felt tired. Tired of the whole thing. Tired of the anger. Tired of the bitterness. 6 months after the storm, the criminal charges were filed. Criminal negligence, fraud, reckless endangerment. Multiple families had been seriously injured in the collapses, broken bones, hospitalizations, some with permanent injuries, and Caleb was being held responsible. The trial lasted 8 weeks, I didn't go, didn't want to. But I followed it in the news, read the updates, watched the coverage. Engineers testified about the faulty designs. Homeowners testified about the promises that were made and broken. Investigators presented evidence of the corners that were cut. And then one of Caleb's former employees testified. Mr. Reed was warned about potential issues with the anchoring system, the employee said. Multiple times, he chose to move forward anyway because delays would have cost money. Multiple times. The verdict came in on a Friday afternoon. Guilty on multiple counts. Sentencing scheduled for next month. I was at work when I got the news alert. I stared at my phone for a long time. Guilty. The man who'd called me mediocre, who'd dismissed my warnings, who'd thrown me away for a richer, prettier version. Guilty. Then my phone rang. Unknown number again. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Hello? I said. Lily. It was Caleb. I should have hung up, but I didn't. What do you want, Caleb? I asked. I wanted to talk to you. This, he said. His voice sounded broken. Talk, I said flatly. I don't even know where to start, he admitted. How about I'm sorry? I suggested coldly. I am sorry, he said quietly. Lily, I'm so sorry for everything. I waited, said nothing. I messed up, he continued. I messed up everything. The business, the homes, us, all of it. Yeah, I said. You did. I should have listened to you, he said, desperation creeping into his voice. About the anchoring system, about the designs. You tried to tell me and I didn't listen. I was so focused on everything else, on succeeding, on proving myself, and I didn't listen. No, I said simply. You didn't. If I had just, his voice cracked, if I had just listened to you, none of this would have happened. Those families would still have their homes. I wouldn't be facing prison. Everything would be different. Part of me, a very small part, felt sorry for him. He sounded genuinely broken, genuinely regretful, but the rest of me remembered everything. You're right, I said, my voice cold. If you'd listened to me, none of this would have happened, but you didn't listen. Because you never thought I was smart enough, never thought I was good enough. I was just the wife who paid the bills and stayed out of the way. That's not true, he said weakly. Isn't it? I shot back. You dismissed me every time I tried to help, every time I offered advice, every time I warned you. You told me to focus on my tutoring and let you handle the business. Remember? Silence. I remember, he said finally. So yes, I continued, you should have listened to me. You absolutely should have. I know, he said. I know, and I'm sorry. Lily, I'm so sorry. I took a breath, steadied myself. And you know what else? I said quietly. What? He asked. Even if you had listened to me, I said, even if you'd fixed the designs and built perfect homes and none of this had happened, you still would have left me. Silence on the other end. Because it was never about the business, Caleb, I said, feeling tears prick my eyes. It was about me. I wasn't good enough for your new life. I wasn't rich enough, pretty enough, connected enough. I was mediocre. Remember? Lily, he started. You would have left me anyway, I said, my voice breaking. Maybe not for Chloe, not maybe for someone else, but you would have left, because I didn't fit the life you wanted, and nothing I could have done would have changed that. That's not, he tried. Yes, it is, I said firmly. You didn't leave me because we grew apart. You left me because you outgrew me, or at least you thought you did. And the moment someone better came along, someone richer, someone shinier, you were gone. More silence. You're right, he said finally, his voice barely a whisper. You're right, I was an idiot. I threw away the best thing I ever had for nothing. Chloe left me the second things got hard. Her father won't even take my calls. Everyone's gone, and his voice broke. I have nothing, Lily. Nothing. Part of me wanted to feel triumphant, but mostly I just felt tired. I'm sorry that happened to you, I said, and I meant it, sort of. But I can't help you, Caleb. I can't fix this for you. You made your choices, and now you have to live with them. I know, he said. I know. I needed you to know that you were right about everything, and I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. Okay, I said quietly. I accept your apology, but that doesn't change anything. I know, he said again. Is that all? I asked. Yeah, he said. That's all. I wanted to hear your voice. One more time. I closed my eyes. Goodbye, Caleb, I said. Goodbye, Lily, he said softly, and I hung up. I sat there for a long time, phone in my hand, staring at nothing. He was right. He should have listened to me. About the homes, about the designs, about everything. But even if he had, he still would have left me behind in the end. Because that's who he was, and no amount of good engineering could fix that. I blocked his number after that, deleted the call log, and I never heard from him again. That night, I sat in my living room with a glass of wine, and I thought about everything. I didn't destroy Caleb. He destroyed himself. I just tried to stop him. And when he wouldn't listen, I stepped back and I let him fall. The sentencing came a month later, 5 years in prison, fines totaling millions of dollars he no longer had, permanent revocation of his business licenses. His company was dissolved, assets liquidated to pay settlements to the victims. Caleb Reed, former CEO and rising star in sustainable housing, was going to prison. I quit my job at Morrison's Engineering a month after the sentencing, not because I had to, because I wanted to. I'd spent so many years working myself to death. For him, for us, for a future that never came, and I was done. Done living a life I didn't choose, done sacrificing for people who didn't appreciate it, done being mediocre. I took a job with a smaller firm, better hours, better culture, actual work-life balance. I sold the house, the one I'd been paying for alone, the one Caleb had called mediocre. I bought a smaller place, a condo downtown, nothing fancy, but it was mine. As for Caleb, well, he got exactly what he deserved, and I didn't have to do a damn thing except tell the truth and wait. Karma took care of the rest. Well, a few years later, he got out of prison after serving 3.5 years. Early release for good behavior. He's working construction now, living in a small apartment, starting over from nothing. Not a CEO, not a visionary, not someone's husband, just a guy who made terrible choices and lost everything because of them. Chloe's moved on, married some wealthy finance guy, of course. I saw the wedding photos on social media. She looked happy. Sometimes I wonder if Caleb thinks about me, about the years I supported him, the warnings I gave him, the life we could have had if he'd just listened and stayed loyal. But honestly, it doesn't matter anymore. So that's my story. Now I want to hear from you. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have warned him? Would you have walked away sooner? Or would you have fought harder? Drop a comment below and let me know. I read every single one, and if you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps me keep making content like this. Also, let me know what kind of story you want to hear next. Revenge? Betrayal? Karma? Second chances? I've got plenty more where this came from. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. Take care of yourselves, and remember, you're worth more than anyone who makes you feel mediocre. See you next time.
If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Don't forget to follow for more content just like this. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.